everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
I'm George-affleck.
And it's time for...
Vaccinations Unspun.
Give it to me right there. Give it, oh, or there.
Wherever they go.
Oh, when people start talking, George, about not wanting a COVID-19 vaccine, my head...
I saw Janet Brown was saying that, like, what? I don't get it. These people who don't want to take vaccines, Janet Brown from ZKNW, saying, I get the same people who say they're not going to take the vaccine, also saying they don't want to wear masks. It's like,
the same people that are complaining that there's a lockdown.
Yeah.
Guess what's going to open the doors, guys? Anyways, we'll get into vaccines in a second because we've got to start with some big news. Big news here on Unspun that requires us to stop the talk that's doing this. George.
Yes.
The budget.
Oh, the Vancouver budget? You mean the 5% tax increase budget and the police battle of the police budget and all those other things that happened? That's the only story we heard, really. That became the dominant story of this budget. You know, we saw a 5% increase, double of what most other cities in the region are budgeting. But the story that became the story was really about the police and their budget. So it was perhaps a good thing for the council that the story got sidetracked onto the budget of the police. So we didn't have to remember that we're also getting a giant 5% property tax increase during the worst time in the history of Vancouver financially. I mean, it's outrageous, really. I mean, just mismanagement, misgovernance. There's no focus for this council. The basic problem is, and I kind of talked about this before, and I tweet this, and I had a conversation with Frances Bulow yesterday, and I don't think she wasn't really getting, where I was coming from on this. But I think the whole budgeting process, COVID or no COVID, has to change. There has to be a process where we talk first about the basics that need to be done, that have to be done, sewers, water, all that stuff that the city, streets. What does that cost in order to just give us the basics that make us look like a clean city and have proper administration and whatever it is that you decide that we are required, that is required by the government, provincial government.
What we used to have, what used to be part of the program.
What is that going to cost? Okay, we know that's going to cost blank. Okay, with staffing and all that stuff. We have allotted, currently last year we had this much money. So that takes up, 80% of that money. Okay, now we have 20% of the money left. Here's our laundry list of things we dream of wanting. The 200 motions that we put forward in the last 2 years, all the other things that we do, whatever they might be. Most of them, a lot of them are politically based. They're politically motivated. Now let's talk about those. Let's have a public conversation and discourse about those and fight those out politically in council and decide, because we only have blank money, but we can't do it all. So what are we going to prioritize? What are we as a council going to take off and say to staff, can't do it, or send it back to staff, say, okay, you need to cut that by 20%, or staff come back and say, we're not going to do 1% across the board. We're going to do 20% here, 5% here. The best analogy, and I hate using analogies for business, but the analogy I used in this case in business, because being in government is not like being in business, believe me, but there is one thing that when you're budgeting, especially when times are tough, which they are right now, you look at your staff costs, obviously, and then you look at things, okay, because somebody said to me, cut 1% off your operation costs. Okay, well, geez. I'm not going to go cut 1% off my photocopier and 1% off of, my electricity, and it's just not how it works. I'll go, okay, electricity is electricity. I can't cut that. I can try, turn the lights off, but it's fairly fixed. Photocopier. Do I need a photocopier? Maybe I should just get rid of the photocopier. That's, $200 a month, gone. I'll just have to do something else or not photocopy or go to the photo printing shop and whatever. You decide, and that's going to save me this much money, a certain percentage. That's not how the city's doing it at all. The finance department simply said, we have to cut 1% or whatever out of our budget. We have to find 200 million. So go to town and find money up, as far as this. And so they just said, go cut everything by the same percentage. And it doesn't work that way. It's not that, that's not how you budget. And so there was no creativity, and creativity in budgeting is, obviously not seen by, accounting people don't like that term, but when you're budgeting, it's generally like, this is the best case scenario that we can paint for the future. And things may change, but this is based on what's happened in the past, what we know was possible. And that's how you budget. And I got the sense throughout this that there was there was just the police fighting for their 2% increase while they were asked to do a 1% decrease. That ended up being a 0%, which they're not happy about. They're probably going to fight and go all the way to the top on that, which I think is terrible PR for them. We talked about that last week, that I think, guys, go with 0. It's a win-win, lose-lose.
For a year, revisit in a year. Go with it.
Yes.
For now.
Yes. And if we get back up and running in 6 months, a lot of their revenue will come back from events. If COVID goes away in 6 months, and a lot of the other revenue that they get through events and all that stuff, it's about, I think it's $10 million or $7 million in revenue. That will come back. So, you know, don't budget for it. But if it comes back, then you have that money and you can hire those 60. It's just like, oh.
Can I jump in on the policing thing? Because in watching it go back and forth, I was watching, you know, what council members were proposing and what the mayor was saying and what the, you know, police were asking for, the dollar figures and how they differed. And it just seemed like it seemed to expose, George, something that you've said regularly here on UnSpun podcast, is something's broken in the relationship between Mayor Kennedy-Stewart and the chief of police, Adam Palmer, because the way that they've I believe it was a press conference 7 months ago where they were talking about, you know, policing in a pandemic and what we're looking at, and
there's the whole Black Lives Matter period, right? There was all that.
And they weren't together. You were like, where's the chief? Why is this happening? And that the mayor is the chair of the board.
Yes, and the board has decided today that they were going to fight the city on this. Something's
not adding up right here.
Here's the difference that I don't think staff have got over at City Hall, that has become, you know, this council is the dream council by so many people. Oh, it's got everybody in it. It's not one dominated by one party. But the challenge of that is, I'm not advocating one or the other, frankly, but staff before with Gregor would go to his office. It was top-down control of city, and they'd say, Gregor, here's what we're doing. And he could actually say, okay, this is the focus. I got my caucus. They do whatever I tell them. They never stray.
Right.
So what the mayor would say, the staff would go, okay, I guess we're good. Doesn't matter what George-affleck says or Melissa
Right. Thanks for coming though, George. You're adding to the handsome over here.
Doesn't matter. He'll just be annoying for a little bit and then raise some concerns about not saving enough money for the future. That would never happen. Why would you be needing money for the future? It's always going to be prosperous in Vancouver, you know, and so. But now they're facing, they don't go to the mayor's office. Hey, Kennedy, what's happening? I don't have much control. I don't know what the future holds.
It always seems that the answer is, well, I wrote a letter. I called the premier. I'm asking the prime minister. There's very little like, I'm the chair, therefore this is what we're doing. This is what we're going to do a year from now. You know, and we see other mayors in other jurisdictions saying, right now, we're going to do what's best for our citizens, and we'll address the rest on the other side, especially when we can actually see the other side of this pandemic. Interesting, though, that instead, when this budget, which has many more moving parts than what we've just referenced here in the last 10 minutes, is that I was shocked. I was listening to the Linda Steele show on CKNW that Kennedy-Stewart joined Linda on to talk about the budget, and he basically said, and I'm paraphrasing but closely quoting, you know, everyone's a little mad at me, so I must have done it right. And I was like,
everyone's a little mad at me? That's a win for him.
What does that mean? And I sent it to you, and you said, that is spin.
Spin. Ultimate. If you can't, like, it's supposed to be everybody's happy and likes what you're doing, or you find a medium, or they don't. Not, but everybody's really, really mad right now. Like, there's, you know, certainly related to the police budget, and that's a tough one because you've got the whole Black Lives Matter issue and defund the police, and you got the people saying crime's out of control. They want less, they want more. Hey, guess what happened? We got zero. That's what happened, you know. And that's,
but then there was also the excuse in there. It's like, well, you know, we've done what we could internally at City Hall. We've, you know, municipal employees are down 1,800, and you know, everybody in City Hall's taken a 10% pay cut. And I was like,
what's your pay cut this year?
10?
I look at my paycheck this year, and it's not bad. It's more than 10. My
significant other has not been at work since March 18th.
Wow.
It's December. And we are very, very lucky that we have enough to see us through. I think about all the people in Vancouver who had barely enough before this, the
Yeah.
affordability crisis before this. We are not the example of who's in the greatest of pain, but when that level of entitlement, that level of superiority complex, like, well, you know, I've cut back on my dry cleaning, is what it sounded like to me. I'm like,
it's tone deaf, and he's quite good at that. I don't know how that actually is a win for him. It's nonsense, to be honest.
I want to like
again,
my
he has
mayor.
George-
This I really need to say. I want to like my mayor. At some point in the decade, I would like to like the mayor. I'd like to feel like I'm proud of what's happening in the city. I feel like they've got the priorities straight. I feel like I don't like, you know, dissing this group every single week or every time something new floats through. But damn, like the SROs, the Sahodas, finally the city owns those. Okay, I'm going to calm down. Finally, the city now owns those dilapidated buildings that should have been raised and rebuilt or rezoned or whatever years ago.
Yes.
How much has it cost us in legal bills? I have no idea. So now I just want to know, how much did we buy them for, George?
We don't know. And, you know, I think I was the first one out of the gate to say that on Twitter. When I saw the deal, I read the story, and the thing it was kind of buried like in the 8th paragraph. I think the first story that came out was from the Tyee, from Jen St. Dennis.
It was.
And I read the story, and about 10 paragraphs down, it said that the price hadn't been acknowledged and wouldn't be. And I'm like, what? Like, I know that, okay, you could say that for a certain period of time, we won't, you know, because there's still, once you make a decision as a council in camera, that is 100%. That's always, you know, you don't reveal that stuff. But generally you eventually do reveal the information, and especially on real estate deals.
Yes.
Real estate deals until the final, but they said as part of the deal, and as we've learned recently, as of yesterday, I think it was the Globe and Mail or the Vancouver Sun, Dan Formano said he extracted this from City Hall, that it was actually the Sahodas who made the requirement that it be hidden, which says to me two things. One, it could be one, to be overpaid or to be underpaid. If it's the Sahodas, what do you think? I mean, I don't know. I would say that do they care about PR? Not much. So I'm guessing that for their purposes, we probably underpaid. But then if we underpaid, why wouldn't we as a city want that out there? But perhaps for the Sahodas, they're going, it's bad for, you know, our image to look like we're weak or whatever.
Guess what? Your image is already brutal, guys. Your image is that of allowing the most impoverished postal code in the country suffer. Because
I can't even imagine because I was there for those conversations regarding the Sahodas in camera, talking about this stuff. We made an offer when I was there. It wasn't good enough, you know, which, you know, we let the legal ramifications that we're in, and the expropriation and all that stuff. That was all the council I was involved in. These guys were not willing to budge when we were there. They obviously did budge, given maybe the pandemic. I don't know. But it seems like I just would have loved to be a fly on the wall. I don't know what happened in camera, or what kind of conversation in camera where a majority of people, whoever they were in the in-camera meeting, voted to keep this hidden. I can't imagine the logic.
It's novice. It must be. It's like, well, if that's what it takes to get done, then let's do it. Because that's what it feels like this council is all about, that they're playing from behind so far that any small win is manipulable, easily manipulated, I guess is what I'm looking at. Because I'm wondering, how can we be, and I'll take it off the Sahodas here.
I would even worse if they weren't paying attention. That would scare me even more. I mean, this is one of the most important, and from a public relations point of view, for the city of Vancouver. And I think the people of Vancouver would be behind us as a taxpayer. Everybody would be behind us if we had even overpaid. If they had said, you know what,
let's do
these guys out of town, go away.
And I hope people know that, and I love me a heritage building. You know me, I'm a little bit of a sentimental fool, but if it's going to take 10 years to fix those dilapidated buildings, let's knock them down and build some damn housing for people who live on the downtown east side, so that they have
down there. Can we build it somewhere else? All that money, you know, just a very valuable property that we could, you know. Anyways,
I don't know. You know what? And that is a conversation that broadens out for sure. But because the property value is as high as it is that reason enough to say that the community of people that are currently there shouldn't remain there? I would argue no. I would argue that we could house the people living at Strathcona Park if we had enough solid housing built in that area code, in that zip code, in that postal code. You know, but the supports that are in place there, we've been dumping as taxpayers $1 million a day into the downtown.
Well, therefore,
east
I would
side.
argue it ain't working down there. So perhaps we
No,
should
it's
think
not.
about change. I mean, the community plan down there is not working. That was approved when I was there in my first term.
Yeah.
Now it's been almost 8 years since that, and nothing has happened. It's gotten worse. So one of the parts of that article also, I think that in Jen's article in Tai was that they would be looking at the community plan again.
Right.
And I'm going, praise me, hallelujah, because that plan is not working. And it really is about, you have to have a integrated and multi-use neighborhood. You can't just, we've created basically a ghetto because of policy by the city of Vancouver. The $1 million a day that we spend on services, the lack of development opportunities. I know that some people hate the private sector and they think they're evil, but guess what? They build stuff and they build it fast and they build it more efficiently. And there's a lot of
have you seen the Park Casino area there? I've never seen anything go up so fast in my entire life.
Yeah,
and then we're told we can't build. You know, it's because money builds. So
but money also builds, and private-public partnerships build great co-ops.
For sure, but $365 million a year being burnt and what's not working in the downtown east side. Imagine what could be built.
With no idea. Yeah, and with no idea what the, what are the key performance indicators of success with all that money. We don't have any way to evaluate if anything we're doing for that $1 million a day is working down there. And certainly on a housing front, when we see the homeless people and the people sleeping, if you go down Hastings right now, I mean, it's insane. It's crazy. It is.
It's sad. It's incredibly sad. And George, when you were in, and I'm totally taking you down this path, we got a bunch of other stuff to get to, but when you came to council, and what was identified as the trigger that started what broke on the downtown east side? Is there something somewhere in the studies in City Hall? Because I remember going down to Hastings all the time. I would go there with my grandmother. We'd go shopping at Woodward's. We'd go to the food downstairs in the food place. We'd go see Santa down there. When did that all change? Like what was it?
Well, there's a few things. First of all, on the especially the homeless front, there was a few things that I learned. Foster care system broken. Mainly, it's men 30 years old or older. They don't get very old, but they're men who are down there, and First Nations, obviously, who from across Canada. So there are huge problems related to that. Now, there's the issue of how we design our city and this whole gentrification challenge, the whole issue against institutionalization, that this negative, absolutely not permitting that at all. When you know that a lot of those people that are down there have massive mental health care issues and perhaps drug addiction problems. So they have those two things and they're homeless. So, we need to help them, but it's how we're helping that seems to be broken. And there's an unwillingness or a fear by administrations, successive administrations in the city of Vancouver, who have been unwilling to appear tough on changing how we manage and build the downtown east side. There was one attempt, and it was Peter Ladner, actually, I think, fought for this, we built that facility up in Dunbar. He took a lot of heat. He ran for mayor, but he was a city councillor for 2 terms before that. And he was behind part of the reason we have up in Dunbar, there's a facility for homeless people. The neighborhood was outraged that this was built. Now, some people will say I'm wrong on this, that there hasn't caused any problems, but it really hasn't caused a significant amount of problems. I mean, it doesn't, if you ask the police, they're going, no, it doesn't register on a level. And it's way over in Dunbar, like 40 units in a building, beautiful building. There's a high-end doctor's office underneath it. So you can do this as a government and say, let's build 200 units or 500 units over in Southeast Vancouver. Why not? Or over by the P&E, or I don't know, anywhere else, Kits. There's so many places that we have not built any facilities in the city because of the NIMBY issue, political issues, fear of the downtown east side contingent that are very vocal. They come to council and they took over council when I was there. We got pushed out of our seats, literally, and they took our seats and took over the council chamber when I was there. The advocates for the downtown east side are aggressive, highly politically, highly strategic. They can get the numbers quickly to show up at council and speak on their behalf. So it's intimidating for government, but you have to stand up and say, this is not the city as a whole that we are representing here in council. This is a contingent that's very important, 100%. But we have to think as councillors and the mayor and the staff of the city as a whole. And you're elected as a councillor as a whole. That's literally what it's called. You're representing the whole city. That's why we don't have wards. We don't have wards, so therefore you don't have protectionist neighborhoods that you take care of like you do with the ward system. I'm not a fan of wards because it creates this sort of neighborhood,
this is mine, that's yours.
And potential corruption and all that stuff. So that is the challenge. There has been successive governments unwilling, and they get caught into the culture that's a strong culture of advocacy in the downtown east side that is sometimes advocating the wrong things for the people that need it the most. And
well, we're looking at that at Strathcona Park right now, and I want to say the ongoing stress of that. I mean, we've talked about Oppenheimer Park for a solid 2 years on this program, and it just shifted over to Crab Park, and then it shifted over to Strathcona. It's the same core group of activists.
It's the full park now. It's
a full park. Third person in the last 2 weeks found dead on this Thursday morning in an RV at Strathcona, in the area of Strathcona Park, which means parked in the parking lot.
Yeah, right on the side there. Yeah.
Yeah. Foul play not suspected. So the presumption might be that it would be opioid related or overdose of some sort, or natural causes, I guess, is possible for the stresses of the people that are living at Strathcona Park, and the people that are living in the neighborhood of Strathcona Park, that are feeling like they're being held hostage in their own neighborhood by what is becoming an ever more dangerous space, and the lack of anyone, whether it be the park board or the mayor or the premier, to actually do something. It's shocking that we are continuing to have this conversation. And I understand that from the mayor's perspective, he just wants hotels. He wants hotels for everybody, hotel rooms.
Yeah, but we also need hotels for tourists, one of our biggest industries in the future. So we can't build those because, there's no land for that. Then you have people like Sarah Blythe down on the downtown east side, saving lives every day, literally.
Every day.
People who are overdosing on opiates, and she can't even get access to that area. I mean, she's down there on the Hastings trying to help people, and I think her team kind of goes to the park every once in a while. But it's really like, this is an isolated neighborhood now of tents with no infrastructure to protect them, and of overdoses, which is a huge problem, as we know right now.
Yeah.
And from each other, and the violence and the criminal behavior that we know is going on. And the city and the park board basically are endorsing it. By not doing anything, they are in fact endorsing criminal behavior, massive health risks, and death. I mean, it's brutal, and it's
and at this time of year, it's a magnet, right? Like in the whole, hey, camp anywhere in any park was just like, that's your reaction to this? How is that the best next step to take? Do you think the park board could get an injunction to clear the park right now?
Yeah, of course they could. I mean, they don't need one. The judge said last time regarding Oppenheimer that you don't need to keep coming back and ask for this. It's within your right to remove those people from the park. You don't need to keep coming asking the court system for an injunction. You have the ability to go in there and ask people to move along. Don't keep asking us. That's basically his wording at the end of the last decision at Oppenheimer.
And so why are they not doing that?
Because the park board, as a majority, have made the decision as a majority, and there's only two that have voted to move forward with any kind of removal of these tents, and that was John Cooper and Trish. And so it's the majority on this park board, the Green Cope Alliance, have decided that this is okay to see people dying, and to see violence, and to see crime endorsed by the Park Board of Vancouver every day in our park, and forget the neighborhood, forget the city, and of course they see
forget the people who are suffering.
Yeah, and they see this as an advocacy. Their job is advocacy, not management, and that's where they're confused. You are a park board of directors. You are meant to manage our parks, not to be advocates for an issue. If you want to be an advocate, you can go advocate and join a nonprofit and
have at her.
The park board's roles and responsibilities, and the city's roles and responsibilities are very clearly defined. And when you are elected, the parameters by which you are supposed to go outside those are very minimal. You are meant, even like in a private, imagine if a private corporation board of directors decided to start doing a bunch of stuff that was totally unrelated to what the corporation's main job was. It would just be like, no, you're goodbye.
Yeah, you're fired, which unfortunately we can't do. And apparently we've just signed up for 2 more years of this same agenda style politics, backroom dealing, Green Coat Alliance.
Same chair and vice chair, yep.
Yeah, great. Okay, I'm gonna go to some good news here, because anytime that I hear any positivity in the voice of our provincial health officer, we even saw a little bit of a dance, she danced a little bit of a, what's that, a jib? No.
Dance a little jig. A little, what's her shoes? Would make her
flu fogs.
A little flu fog shuffle.
No, flu fog shuffle. But I mean, I don't know about you, George, but I do really want some hope. And I mean, I know you do. I take that back. Of course you do. We want it, but you tend to be like, just wait, it's going to be bad first, which I agree. It is. But the whole rolling out of the vaccines, and I watched the whole briefing on Wednesday, and and a lot of it was really putting in simplest and plainest of terms of how this is going to take time. We're going to try and do a no-fail scenario. She even got to the point where she's like, we're going to get this many at a time, and then we're going to break them apart, and we're going to store them, because we don't want to fall below that -76 temperature that these Pfizer vaccines need to be kept at, because then that vaccine is dead. It's gone. It's bye. Okay, now we have to wait for more. And it's not like we're going to hold it and do 2 vaccines in one group of people, even though you need 2 doses within a 3-week period. Like the way she explained all of it, and underlying tone, George, for me was like, this is the first time since the start of this that I feel like I've heard significant optimism from our provincial health officer, because 6 months ago I got the feeling that she's like, we could be in for years and years and years. She wasn't saying that because it would terrify so many of us, it would just cause chaos, but I feel like when she said this is a huge day, and the fact that we're right at the head of the line when everybody's all the tools of the world are yelling at the Trudeau's of the world, and everybody wants to fight about it. Hello, UK, Canada, they don't got it yet.
I know. It's I was and I was kind of forgetting that. Oh my God, because there's a story this morning saying, oh, US is soon gonna. Oh yeah, they haven't approved that yet, have they? My God, so that means we get our stuff faster. Take your time. Take your time.
What's the first thing you're going to do once you get back? Obviously, you're going to get vaccinated as soon as possibly can, right?
Yes, of course.
All the things.
Yes. I mean, this Christmas is going to suck. We have a grandma who, we have to watch out for. So we got our small team of people that, to control that. You, I know we've talked about this in your family, your unit's pretty tight. So yeah, no, I think obviously I've got 2 kids that have moved out. Yeah. And I have limited time to see them. I have to go for walks with them separately outside right now. I don't get to have them over, but. Yeah. So that's the first.
But that's the thing we have to remember here. While we have people all over the planet that are in lockdown or in restrictions that are like, I love that moment in the press briefing. I believe it was a CTV reporter, I'm not 100% sure, who asked, like, given all the restrictions that you have in place and that you've extended, Dr. Henry, are you getting backlash about this lockdown? And she went, first of all, it's not a lockdown. Like, can we stop here in British Columbia calling it a lockdown? It's like, put on your mask and go out and go do your business and, do the things, even go to a restaurant with your family, only in your household, go to a restaurant. Nobody's telling you not to. We're not shutting that down.
Go to a restaurant.
Please go to a restaurant and tip big. I went and got a Christmas tree yesterday. We're putting it up today. Yes, I know, the Grinch over here. We got a Christmas tree. Went to the lot we always do. One of the sons of the guy who owns it, who's always worked there. We always see Brody. Hi, Brody. And he puts the tree on the car. I spent, I don't even know, $100 on the Christmas tree. And I gave $20 to Brody. You should have seen his face.
Wow.
And it made me feel so good, because Brody doesn't, probably doesn't have a lot of other work going on right now.
Yeah, one of the guys at my tree place, he's a flight attendant. And he said, I work. And so he's cutting trees.
Right. So where we can give a little extra, do a little extra, help people out, try and be really careful this Christmas. I know there are a lot of people that are saying, well, maybe we can just get together, just a few of us. All you need to do is look into some of the stories where it was just a family birthday party. Everybody was immediate family. It was 3 people at the core and 5 people from different households came together. Everybody got sick and Nana died. Really? We do not want to do that at Christmas.
That makes Christmas really awkward.
That's what actually my significant other, Brian, said to his dad, who wants to just go and run his errands. And Brian said, Dad, you on a respirator would not make Christmas fun.
True.
And I was like, whoa, that was severe. And he's like,
yeah.
We can all have a party together after. It's not that big of a deal. Anyway, we're almost out of time. So I got to tell you about my column this week.
Yes.
Full disclosure, I was trying to do something not COVID. I really was.
Did it.
And so I did, because I thought, okay, well, what was our headline before COVID-19? And I was like, well, Greta and school strike and environment and all of that. And I just was made aware of an initiative that is launched in is a pilot project in a few Vancouver schools to add curriculum, as opposed to a school strike where everybody leaves school to talk environment and learn more and move the meter. It's actually bringing environmental awareness into schools, but not extremism. It's more about what we can do, teaching kids how to do like a waste assessment in your home and how to close the loop on plastics. Because while, if you watch CBC Marketplace, recycling is all garbage. It's like, well, not here in BC. I didn't know this, but 75% of plastic bottles are recycled into carpet fiber or clothing, and those juice boxes become paper towel and toilet paper. Like, we are doing a really good job here.
Newspapers, 100% of newspapers are recycled, and they make money on it.
And we make money off of it. So think about it, have a read. The Orca.ca is where you can find it. It's closing the loop on plastic. It's my middle this week to stop the argument between you're too green and you're too fuel. Like, there's something in the middle, and we need to kind of find that.
I live my life every day. I mean, people say, oh, you're not environmental. I'm like, you should see the way I live my life. It's totally like grassroots, kind of just taking care of my space.
You're cool. And you've got the coolest Twitter handle. It's @George_affleck. I'm @Jody with a Y Vance, @Jody Vance on Twitter. And of course, you're following along at the Orca.ca. Make sure you sign up for the Fin. You just put your email address in there. Nobody sells or anything. You just get great information direct to your inbox. We've gone over. We got to go, George. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.